I wanted to let you know that I'm what's known as an industrial designer or a product designer, and that means I design physical things, okay? Things you touch, things you buy to help make your life better, hopefully. And so the Kona vision that I'm going to be explaining tonight, and Kona vision we use when thinking about drawing perspective, and we talk about two-point perspective. Well, that means 2 points out here, and all the lines sort of converge to those 2 points, okay? Where those 2 points are is the limit of your Kona vision. So if I move my hands back and I could still see them, that's my Kona vision. So I speak in those terms to you today, beautiful day, so that you understand where I'm coming from and where I'm using Mid-Journey to help me generate concepts. I look at it as brainstorming and furthering along what's already out there. You figure, how long have we been talking about AI? How long have we really been using it has been pretty finite, pretty short. And just how quickly it's going to expand. Before this talk, we were talking with some people, and some of them are programmers and things that right over my head. But, you know, where is it going to go, and what's the legal ramifications, and, you know, the social and critical thinking, all these things, no one knows, you know, where it's going to end up. So for right today, if I plant a stick in the ground and I say I'm using Mid-Journey right today, that's what this presentation is, okay? So with that in mind, I'll give you a glimpse of something. This is a treadmill, if you didn't know what it was. It was generated in seconds, like, you know, 3 other images along with this, probably 45 seconds it took to generate. And it comes from prompts, okay? If I were to ask myself or a designer to come up with a presentation like this, it's 2 to 5 days of work to give you a comparison. In this presentation, I will show you in real time with a video. I did a screen capture as it was generating and populating 4 different images at once in seconds. So we're talking about something that is incredibly powerful, incredibly scary, you know, but also pretty darn cool, okay? And so that's what this is all about. As Jason mentioned, I teach just one class over at Metropolitan State Industrial Design, Advanced Industrial Design. And when I showed the dean of the department, Ted Sheen, just AI, what we were doing and how we were using it, he said, geez, it's just amazing, but it's very hollow or very shallow, which, you know, almost the same word. But anyway, and it's true. If you start looking at multiple images of AI, you can spot them right away. As beautiful as they are, there's something shallow, there's something hollow, there's something not quite genuine about everything. And yet, they're beautiful to look at and to get started with. So, it's a ton of images. This is an hour's worth of work for me to generate prompts and produce all these, you know, have Mid-Journey produce all these images. Probably even less than an hour. How many is there? Close to 100, just like that. Okay? So, we're talking spooky fast. More detail on treadmills, very elegant. You can tell Mid-Journey, hey, put it in a soft architectural environment. Okay, I'll do that for you. Or hey, I just want it in a white background. Let's not do all the noise. Okay? Okay, I'll do that for you. Those are different prompts you could use to generate what you want. Okay? In creating prompts, it's not unlike creating product. Okay? And before we can create a product, we have to create design brief. what the heck are we designing? We got to put guardrails up, okay? And understand the product itself, understand the product user, and understand the market that it's going to be competing in, okay? So the reason why the rocks, okay? I've been a consultant now for over 20 years. Before that, I worked in-house at corporate people, and you'll see, I show a slide of all that stuff, so you'll get a better handle on who I've worked for. Anyway, the rocks are a symbol for me. And it's really clear when talking to clients, I say, well, do you have a product brief or a white paper or something that gets me, puts a stake in the ground of what you want? And some people say yes. And some people say, well, what goes in it? What do you need to know? And I can get really specific about it, but I said, most of the time it's like, you know, because they're like, well, how long does it need, or how detailed, and all that. And I said, well, it's a lot like me telling you to go find me a rock. And so you run outside and you find me a rock, and I look at it, and I said, well, I want a 2-pound rock. This one's about 3.5 pounds. Find me a 2-pound rock. You come back, and it's a 2-pound rock. Good for you. But I want it nice and shiny and slippery, like a river rock. So you go out and find me a nice, slippery, shiny river rock, and I come back, and well, it's not black. It's got a lot of red in it, but, you know, I want a black one. So you find me a black one. You say, well, you know, I'd like blue speckles in this thing. So you get the point of the story. I could be sending you out for rocks all day long, or I could just tell you what I want, okay? And it's been my experience to force someone to write down what they want is a great exercise. We all know what we don't want. This is the problem designers have in working with clients a lot of times, is you show them a bunch of stuff, and they're like, well, I don't like anything. You know, I will never forget an experience I had working with Free Motion Fitness when they were in the Colorado Springs. We went down there, met with the president, told us what he wanted, came back. It was a very short time frame to do an elliptical trainer. So my business partner and I worked 65 hours straight, went down there again, didn't have any accidents, thank God. And we lay out tables of sketches and stuff. And the guy looks at them all and he goes, well, none of these are right. And we're like, you know, I could see my business partner firing up and getting ready to put himself in jail for something, you know. And so I'm like, hey, you said you liked these features. Well, these sketches show that. You said you liked these other features. These sketches show that. So after an hour of talking to him about what he said he wanted and how we did it, we were able to put together something that worked for him. And so 65 hours, you know, what is that, 130 hours worth of work wasn't lost. It was just, we had to refine it and tell him, hey, this is what you said, this is what we did, and showed him those things, okay? So, product definition. It's small type for a reason. You don't have to read it. I'm not going to read all of it, but basically, you know, define what it is, who it's for. What are the ergonomics? You know, is this a kid's product, adult? Is it, you know, for heavier adults, normal adults, active adults? You know, what are, one of my favorite things, testing requirements. What does it have to pass? Okay? So all these things come into play in defining what that physical product is. What are key features that are critical for this product? Okay? All right. If you noticed, early on, all of the images will be, but I wanted to specifically let you know that these images that I'm showing you, I didn't have to create. AI did. And they're pretty wild, and they're pretty spectacular. But let's going back to this. So, user analysis. What are those key things? Who am I designing this for, essentially? And like I said, you can read this, take a picture of it, and save it for later, whatever. These are key questions that we ask when we're starting to do using a designer brief, okay? This one, actually, I did generate. So basically, these are key features, and it's who's got what, one of those competitions, right? And then if you're starting to read this, it's the math behind a product. So, when something's coming from Asia, that's the FOB cost. Then it goes to COS cost, where it's on the dock. And then it's landed cost, where you start paying duty and all that other stuff and shipping. And then it's wholesale, so the company marks up its money. And then it finally gets to you, and you're saying, wow, why does it cost so much? Well, because it's 4x what it really cost, okay? So anyway, in developing this, we really have to understand our competition. Do you go head-to-head with the competition? Do you think your brand's strong enough? Do you dovetail in, go under it, go above it, bracket the key product? That's all part of it, okay? I highlighted one area in red because I'm all about innovation. I have over 80 patents to my name, somewhere between 80 and 100. And they basically give you a leg up, okay, a foundation. So understanding where you can innovate in a category comes from understanding your competition, understanding that market, and then understanding what the product innovation needs to be. So those three factors, okay? I told you I'd tell you about myself. So when I was out of school, I started off my career as a toy designer. How cool is that, right? And what was really fun, I was a toy designer when Big came out. Remember the movie Big with Tom Hanks? Some of you do. It's a really old movie. It's 40 years ago. Anyway, it was a lot like the movie, where you'd have us guys in R&D and women just doing crazy things, and then the rest of the company was wearing suits, And one of the best things from the movie is when the R&D guys got driving an RC car and it runs into a suit's foot, and he's like, and the car backs up right away. And that's basically how it was, okay? Back then, they said it was hard to break into toy design and even harder to break out. So for me, breaking out was going to juvenile products, Jerry Baby products, and that's what brought me out to Colorado. Been out ever since. Went from there and I designed juvenile products for Fisher-Price, then went to Samsonite, from Samsonite to Schwinn, which for me was the best job in the world. I'm an avid cyclist, always been. I know I don't look like it, but in my day. And still designing bikes today. Low Pro and Monarch Luggage. Monarch Designs was the luggage company, as well as teaching. So that's my in-house. Some of our clients, but we've actually designed stuff directly for HP and Target and other companies. But I like to put some of these guys, they're a little bit smaller. So medical, a lot of bike companies. And that's my current company, Titanium Design Group. How to reach me if you want is Doug at Titanium Design Group. All right. Last year, I don't submit my product designs to any awards companies. The companies do, okay? I let them do it. So I'm 39 years of experience, almost 40. And last year, I won all kinds of awards that I didn't even know, So it was pretty cool. And if anyone's familiar with the Red Dot Award, we won Best of the Best with this. It's a device that basically makes any wheelchair a motorized wheelchair. So you can attach it to your wheelchair, and there's an app on your phone. You can control it. Talk a little bit about this crazy-looking bike. It's the first 3D printed carbon fiber production bike. Mouthful. But think about that. It's carbon fiber, and it's 3D printed, hands off. Pretty crazy. That's where we've come. Jason said I like to pursue technology and things. It sort of just falls in my lap, but this was a pretty crazy one for sure. In the bike world, we won 4 European Gold Bike Awards in 2 years. No company ever won 2 in 1 year. We actually won 4 in 2 years. So that was pretty cool. 2000, No, it's 2021, I think, or 22. Maybe it was last year. I was an expert witness for Mad Dog Athletics. They were the inventor of spin bikes, and they were suing Peloton. And they had a 205 patent that read like a playbook of what Peloton did. So I'm like, yeah, I'm all in on that. And very interesting for me, someone with lots of patents, to see the defending process, how you defend a patent, which could be a whole talk to itself, and just how much money was spent between the two things. It was dismissed, but I did get deposed, and for 8 hours. That was a lot of fun. So is a cool process. So when I talk about spin bikes and fitness equipment, a little bit of expertise there, okay? So, all right. Last night, I was going over this, and I'm like, well, I'm going to Google brainstorming techniques. First list came up. There was 14 different techniques, whatever that might be. And I'm like, oh, okay, that's cool. Next list was 29. I'm like, well, it's way more than I would know what to do. But, I think we've all probably used a lot of these techniques, just didn't know what the names were of them. So, I think that's all part of it. So the reason why I wanted to talk about this just a little bit, I'm going to move on, is this is where I see AI is today for product design or something that's visual, okay? We can talk about chat and some of the other AI tools and their ramifications, accuracy and all of that. Here, there's certainly accuracy problems as well, and it's a lot of fun to look at visually what's going on when they're wrong or not accurate. But at the end of the day, it's something to create something more with, okay? That's how I'm using AI right now, is a stepping stone. So I don't want us to get hung up on thinking, this is my latest spin bike. Really? Okay, it's not, okay? So last year at Denver Startup Week, I was fortunate enough to give a talk on, is design a commodity, okay? I don't know, is anyone here? There was like 5 people. No, there was probably 20 people that attended. It was a rainy night, and I think it was me. But no, anyway. Basically, it's not necessarily AI, but generative design's been in CAD now for about 5 or 6 years. And basically, it takes input from the engineer or the CAD operator and creates optimal pieces. This may be what the engineer designed, and then as it goes down the line, the generative design's trying to whittle out and make the part as light as possible. Now, the only way it does that is by input from the CAD operator to say where the stresses are, okay? Here's a great example of bad input. Does anyone know what this is? What I'm showing right now? Just say it out loud. Okay, it is a bike frame. If you know anything about a bike frame, though, a lot of where it's really heavy is where it should be lighter. And a lot of where it's really light, it should be heavier. So it's actually inverse almost of what a bike frame should be. More importantly, it's really ugly. And that has to do a lot with that input from the engineer or whatever. Most people, when they think about bikes, they think of the forces on a bike are linear. You hit a bump and it's forcing the front wheel back at you. As you're pushing down on the pedals, those are linear forces. Your seat, that's a linear gravity force. But at the end of the day, the forces on a bike are almost like a 360-degree sphere. If you really think about pushing down on the pedals, you're actually pushing from left to right as you pedal. If you've ever seen someone in a sprint, the bike's actually doing this as they're sprinting. Those forces are happening. When you turn a corner, the bike forces are, God knows where they're coming from, okay? at a sharp rate of speed. About 6 years ago, I broke 4 ribs as I collapsed my front wheel mountain biking. It did what's called taco, okay? It means I was going too fast for my own good. No, it just means that the wheel, the rim of the wheel and the strength of the wheel gave out given what it had to carry, okay? But it's that universal 360 degrees of force that someone didn't understand, okay? So generative design has limitations. AI right now has got a lot of limitations, okay? I wanted to emphasize that. Shotgun theory. When we talk about product design or creative pursuits, we generally don't talk in one answer. If you ask an engineer to solve a problem, he or she's going to pull out their best answer and give it to you. You know, mathematically, theoretically, this is what you need to do. So they pull out a rifle and they shoot at the target, okay? As designers, I like to think our task is to pull out the shotgun and shoot at the target. And what happens, we're going to hit the target. We'll hit it. But we also have all these stray pellets everywhere. And it's sometimes those stray pellets are the magic. We all have preconceived ideas of what the answer should be. And we think about it in those terms. So like to ask someone creative to come up with 10 solutions, that's probably rolling in their head as soon as you give them the problem. So they can spit out those 10 solutions. Now, tell that same person, give me 50 solutions. Okay? It's a lot harder. And especially from number 15 to 25, that's why I lost my hair, okay? In the front here, because pulling out. But then after you go past 25 ideas and into 30, it's nirvana. It's like, what drug are you on? So, you know, pushing answers beyond the norm or expected is where you want to head, okay? So, thus the shotgun theory. What happened here? Actually, Ryan, who works for me, who happens to be here, by the way, wanted to see what chat would do if he put in a bunch of parameters for his dog breed and said, I want a 16th century portrait, yada, 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 like a famous master did it. And this is what it came up with. Pretty cool, all right? It's funny, every time I show this to people, everyone's like, you know. So it isn't necessarily specific to his dog, but it's a wonderful introduction to what AI can do. All right, I showed this earlier. So as we start thinking about doing a new indoor cycle, we start prompting it different ways, okay? Like I said, you know, some of the backgrounds are almost dungeon-like, and then creative, architectural, wild backgrounds, futuristic stuff, you know, trying to get what maybe the client wanted, a holistic feel. What does that mean? And what does it mean to this? So trying all these different prompts to come up with different imagery, okay? So they're just cleaning it out so you can see exactly what's going on. So pretty clean. So now we can go in and start going, well, this looks pretty much like state-of-the-art to the market. You know, $200 bike, $300 bike, maybe $500 bike. This looks like Fantasyland. It was very futuristic. I don't know why an indoor bike needs 2 wheels, but AI kept spitting out these things with 2 wheels, but you know, neither here nor there. We won't judge it until I need to. Okay? When you start working with AI, there's ways to take the image you want and pursue it better. So this first row of views, I sort of liked what was going on with here, but I wanted to see more detail. So I hit U14. Okay? When I hit U14, it came up better picture, see a little bit more detail. And then if I hit, let's say V1 of this, or V1 of this image, it produced these images. And all of a sudden I got something that I liked, that I thought, wow, I could really use this. And what that was, if you notice, even on this one, most of these darn spin bikes have a connection between the front foot and the rear foot. And the reason why that is, you have a V. And if someone sits on it, that V is going to tend to want to spread out. But the idea that this generated for me was if I make the chain guard strong enough, then that becomes my bottom brace. And I triangulate the V so it doesn't spread out. So from there, I did a couple of quick, just noodly napkin sketches. And I also liked the foot on this one. And I said, hey, let's just make a quick bike, okay? So from that, Ryan, oh, well, before we did that, you got to go in and say, what's the dimensions of this thing? What ergonomically does it need to be? All right, let's define it. So a little quick 2D dimensions. And then this is the end result, okay? Once again, 2 days worth of work where I always spitting out stuff in seconds. But this is real. You could actually get on it and ride it and not break your back. It's got some adjustability here and there. And therefore, that was the end result of this exercise, okay? Same thing with the treadmill. Excuse me. Any questions so far? Good. And not that you can't ask questions, feel free to. But, so, a lot of stuff. We start looking at it, narrowing down what might catch our eye or what we think is producible or something that may be unique and different that we can put in today's technology at a price that's reasonable that someone might pay for. And we come up with some, images that will take us to the next step. Okay?
So are you creating new products by telling AI exactly what you want, seeing what it produces, it comes up with, and then making an actual design of that thing?
Yes and no. So we're prompting it to come up with product we would like to see. And so I'll get into where that prompt happens, and you'll actually watch the process. Once that prompt is done, it produces images. It doesn't necessarily follow what I wanted, or those images based on my prompt may not be what I want, okay? But then I'm taking parts and pieces of those images, looking at 100 to 200 images, and weeding it out to the things that I think could be intriguing, that we can make a product of. Okay? Does that make sense? Okay, good question.
Quick question. I'm sorry I wasn't here earlier. Did you say which program or which AI you're actually using?
Yeah, Midjourney. Yeah, no worries. Good question. So, anyway, in looking at, the 100 to 200 images that Midjourney produced, we picked out some that were like, yeah, this could be intriguing. So we take some of those features, make it so it's doable and manufacturable, and then take it to the next level, some CAD, okay? Once again, what AI produced in seconds, we're doing in 2 days. It's just sad truth. However, this is real. Or it could be real. Right now it's all virtual. But, the dimensions and being able to use it is real. If we were to do an exploded view, you could cost this thing out. So it's real, all right? Versus a lot of what AI is not real. And you're not going to get it at a cost. The first image of the treadmill I showed you, page 2, after my title page, it's gorgeous gorgeous room, gorgeous treadmill. I have no idea. It'd probably be a $10,000 to $15,000 treadmill if you tried to produce it. Who's going to pay that? Well, there are people that pay it, but at this point, I'm not designing that. Okay? So you're interested in Midjourney now. You're going, oh, it does some wonderful things, and it does. And at $96 a year or $8 a month, you could be using it as well. Thank you, Midjourney. Anyway, how you get started is not through Midjourney. You actually have to set up an account with Discord. Okay? So you need to set this up because Midjourney actually sits inside Discord. It's a separate company and all that, but it operates that way. Oddly enough, and I'm not a gamer, my son was like, oh yeah, Discord, I know them. They're big in the game world. I'm like, okay, all right, well, I'm using it now and I have an account with them because of Midjourney. Okay? So first thing you need to do, and you don't necessarily have to download the app. You can just operate off the web. So your browser, just letting you know. Then go to Midjourney, follow the instructions to sign up, and then it will eventually take you back to Discord. Okay? Once you're back at Discord, the screen's going to look like this somewhat, minus the indoor trainers. Where it says message bot down here, if you type in a backslash, there'll be a menu of things that you can hit. If you want to do what I've been using, hit image. And I couldn't even tell you what some of the others, but there's like 7 or 8 different prompts that you have to sort of scroll through to figure out what you want to use. Okay? At that point, you type in your prompts, whatever that might be. Indoor cycle. We can't call them spin bikes. It's sort of like Kleenex. Okay? Spin bikes is owned by Mad Dog Athletics. Indoor cycle is universal to what a spin bike is. Okay. It's one of those things. Give me a Kleenex. Is it universal or not? I don't know. Anyway, once you start getting images, try to refine that prompt to where you need to go. Sorry, I'm getting a little tickle. Okay, and I mentioned it earlier. You can start, if you just want to take one of these images and see it in more detail, hit the use. If you want to see a derivative of that, geez, I like a 2-wheel spin bike. But, hit the V4. Okay? All right. Now for the spoon. Oh, if I can get it to work. All right, this is real-time generating concepts. So that first 10 seconds, 15 seconds, it was thinking about what it's going to populate here. Now it's just populating pixels. This is real-time off my desktop doing what I've just been talking about. So if that's not scary, I don't know what else is, I mean, it's cool as hell, but it's scary. I mean, how about that? Right in front of your eyes. Boom. I wanted to see what it would do with logo designs. Okay? I think, well, maybe not, he didn't, but I actually own a furniture company. It's very small. Alpine Blue. It's actually Alpine Blue Home, but we just call it Alpine Blue. And so I typed in different parameters, furniture company, mountain, all that stuff. And this is what it spit out. I mean, I didn't go too deep into it. But if you notice, the words are nothing. It didn't handle words too well. So it's not a chat kind of thing, It's basically imagery. So some of those logos are actually fairly cool in one respect or another. But So it can do graphics if you don't look for specific typefaces and words. I mean, I guess it is spelling out typefaces, but not spelling out the words right. So, pretty cool. Yeah?
What's the file extension for that? Can you then pull that into Illustrator and connect with it? Or?
It's actually just like a JPEG or something. So it's not edible, okay? Eatable? No, edible. It's a dumb image that you'd use as an underlay, okay? Good question. All right. Need I say more? AI is not always right. You know, we've been hearing a lot how in chat, how it, oh, go ahead.
Yeah, you had talked about how like the brace, you looked at the image and said that this would be a better brace at the bottom and then you showed the specification sheet. I'm wondering how, like, do you think it would be beneficial if AI would spit out the image and explain the engineering and why it decided to do certain things in the first place for it? Or is that better left to human operators?
It's not there yet. It's just producing what?
Can you repeat the question?
All right, so his question, if I get her out, since I got this thing. His question, do you think it would be beneficial for AI to tell you why it did what it did in the case of like putting a brace between the front and the back or whatever, or is that a human engineering aspect of it? More or less got it right? And I said AI is just not there yet. So, you know, it can't even get the direction of the runner right on a treadmill. So, but it's right a lot of times. We've heard through chat that it was operating at like 90% if correction or 95 when it first came out on math problems, and now it's down to like 5% correct. And I don't know if they're dumbing it down. No one, you know, people have talked about it, but no one's really known what's going on, why it went from here to basically inverse of that. Anyway, in case you're wondering, most people don't pedal on one side of the bike. Okay, that's what's wrong with that one. I actually, and I couldn't find it, but I remember seeing one where there was a saddle here and a saddle here. So is it a couple's bike? I don't know. So it's fun to see that I'm not the only one making mistakes, okay? So, but it just says that this is, there is human editing and power that goes in. If you look at it, it's actually not an unattractive treadmill, what's going on there, but it's really hard to get past the lady running backwards. So, in full stride, mind you. Okay. Yeah.
I'm curious, like with the prompting, do you generally start with like a super generic prompt, like spin bike, and then refine it as you?
Yeah. And you can even get to the point where you're saying disruptive, or or futuristic, or words that aren't necessarily related to the product, but related to maybe the position the product may have. So using the word disruptive, you really have no idea what it's going to produce. And yet it produces some fun stuff, okay? So, word salad and thesaurus comes into play here, and really seeing this is one of those things where you could just keep going deeper and deeper into it. At some point you just got to say, all right, I've got 5,000 concepts. I think I've had enough. But yeah, it just spits out stuff all the time, and based on how deep do you want to go. So, but yeah, you can use words that have nothing to do with where you really may want to head, but just to see what it does. All right. I talked about this earlier, a bike I designed in 1999, and how the stamped steel bike that they were showing. Very similar, not exact, but I found that interesting anyway. All right, legalese. Additional AI thoughts. So, who owns AI? The program just produced 200 ideas. Who owns those? No one is the answer. In order for something to be copyrighted or patented, it has to be generated or created by a human. That's the current state of the law. Okay? So AI falls outside that. Now, one can say, well, as my prompts at that particular time that generated this idea. So where does it go from there? That's a debate that greater minds than mine will have to have. Okay?
I'm a painter.
Yeah.
Say I tell AI, this is what I want, this is what I need, and then I look at the image that they created, but then I painted myself. Is that the same thing?
I don't know. I would, so you're replicating, I guess if you were to replicate it as close as you could, you know, sort of like those people that copy masters' paintings and they're doing every brushstroke or something like that. I would call that a copy, right? Then that would be a problem trying to patent that or copyright it. But if you interpreted that, sort of like a song cover, right? At what point is it truly a copy of a song that you did, or is it something new and original based on a different song? And I'm not the judge of that right now. I'm a user. So I can't tell you that. There are people in this room might be better suited to answer that question.
I just want to mention the concept of derivative works. We don't know what's going to happen with the law right now, but creatively you're allowed to make derivative works, and I think that's the area we're going to need to look into.
Right. That's a good point. And just like I'm using parts and pieces to create it, now would those parts and pieces be patentable as a totality? Probably, but I'm not 100% sure either. So you were going to say something?
For example, like a treadmill, the design comes from AI, but you go out to actually manufacture prototype right? Even though it's sort of like the main design.
Well, if the main design, all right.
Say for the treadmill, the main design came from AI, but you go out and you actually manufacture a prototype, can't you like get a patent for that?
Depends how much you change, or the derivative part of it, I think, matters. So if you like one of those really fun, clean $10,000 treadmills or whatever it might be, we went and we produced it and we tried to follow it as close as we could to AI, then it's probably not covered under anything. And not only that, for the most part, what we were seeing as images, some of the things might be patentable, but probably a lot of it is not. Or it may be patented in a design patent. So if you know, there's all different kinds of patents, but like a design patent, it has to be almost identical to what you're patenting to be an infringement to that. So, and there are people that are dumb enough to do that. I'm going to copy this design and sell it. And it's got a design patent on it. Please don't do that. And then there's mechanical patents, just like there's agricultural patents, artichokes, where they patent the genome of plants and things. So, patent law, whole different subject, but the idea is, if it's pretty close or exact to what AI is doing, chances are you're not going to be able to do anything with that, okay? So you need to, once again, like I've been saying this from the beginning, we're using this as a stepping stone, a brainstorming technique, something to feed that shotgun theory, okay? And bring more ideas quicker to the client, okay? That's how we're using it. Now, I'm not going to go over this. Oh, yeah.
I have a question. I'm very curious how elaborate your prompts are. How much of your design brief makes it into Discord? Would you mind sharing some of the things you've actually asked Midjourney to make for you? And how did those prompts go?
Okay. Well, some of it I cannot talk about. So the things I'm talking about are just things that we generated for this presentation, which was the indoor cycle and the treadmill.
Take a hypothetical project. Make something like, how elaborate was that?
Well, sadly, the best example I have of what you're talking about is Ryan's dog, where he went to chat and it totally, he gave it a few prompts and it spit out a paragraph. multi-sentence paragraph to describe what it thought Ryan was thinking about. He put that multi-paragraph or multi-sentence paragraph into Midjourney, and it spit out the dog with, the beautiful pictures of this breed. So it can get pretty wild and specific. You can, you can keep it pretty tight as far as just words or sentences and paragraphs. There are times when it just says, I'm not going to do that, okay? I give up. There's too many variables, and that has happened, and we've seen it, okay? But it's rare. So as you're using Midjourney, I think that's the process, is get deeper and deeper into it and see what happens, Certainly, there's an awful lot of repeating, indoor cycle, clean design, clean background, and then getting into just, disruptive or futuristic or things of that nature. You in the back.
Yeah, I had a question about, from concept generation, where do you think AI will go next as far as product design goes? Generating technical diagrams, CAD, things like that.
I think that's like looking into a crystal ball that I don't know if I can see yet. Certainly that's a possibility where it's looking at ergonomics and, so let's say you put in a whole design brief as your prompt. So you're telling it who the consumer is, who the channels of distribution are, the manufacturing process, what are the innovations I want to see on the product itself. Maybe at that point it starts spitting out something very, very specific, but right now it's only doing images. So until it can really spit out 3D CAD or 2D CAD that's accurate, we're not there yet, okay? But God, if I knew that, I'd be throwing every dime I had at that company, right? Because that would make life a lot easier and less challenging and even more spooky for those of us in the field. So, get in on the ground floor and make your money that way, I guess. But I have no idea. So I'm sorry I can't answer that. So this is from Midjourney, and it's saying, basically, you own your own prompts, you own your own creation here. However, middle part, we're going to use that any way we want in any promotion we want, okay? So it's yours, and you can do with it what you want, and technically you own it, but we also own the rights to it, okay? Then down here it says, if you make a lot of money off this, you better be a pro user, okay, and give us some of that back. Okay, so it's interesting how even Midjourney is trying to capture what's going on here and giving you the access to what you want, but also saying, hey, wait a minute, is generated by us or our engine, and so we own parts of that in the way we want to use it. Okay, so.
That's right. They take license to take your prompts. If there was something to copyright, it would be the prompt that you created as a human and put it in their system. So you grant them ownership of that when you use the system?
Yes. Yes. Got a problem with that? Go to the next guy. Yeah, bottom line, they're saying you own it, but we own it. It's a dual ownership here. And, oh, by the way, if you make a lot of money, then, we need it back. So this is the scary part about AI, okay? Goldman Sachs economists have estimated that 300 million full-time jobs across the globe will be automated in some way by the newest wave of AI, with up to a quarter of all jobs being completely done by AI. This is the Terminator part of AI, okay? So it's a scary part. And What's really scary, sitting in this room and using it and talking about it, to your point, we have no idea where it's going. Okay? We talked about some of the laws that might be coming down and how Italy's banned certain AI engines. You know, the genie's truly out of the bottle here. And 5 years from now, it's going to look very different than where we are right now. You know, I mentioned earlier how I gave a talk on is design a commodity? And I keep thinking as I'm doing all this stuff, if I was to give that talk this year, what would it sound like? Probably a little different than what I gave last year. And it's just 1 year away from what I did last year. Okay? So, a little bit of spookiness there. All right. That's my talk. And I wanted to thank Ryan, who's actually here, who actually handheld me and get me to where I needed to go, because I'm an old fart and didn't understand half of this stuff. But no, it's pretty cool. And then Jacob Morgan is a designer who sent me his website and resume, and he lives in Salt Lake City. He actually was experimenting with a lot of this before I was even looking at it. And that was back in April. And I totally embraced it, called him up, hired him to do some things with us with AI. And it's been fun. So special thanks to both Ryan and Jacob. All right. Any more questions? Feel free.
You guys, I do have a microphone as well. So for those in the back who want to ask questions, use the microphone and just flag me down.
2 questions, maybe quick. I guess I'll start with, there's things you can use to fact check or to copyright check or to originality check your ChatGPT content, right? Do you know of any that you can use for imagery content?
No.
No, the answer was no. And then the second question is...
It doesn't mean there...
Doesn't mean there's not, of course.
Disclaimer,
yes. Of course,
none that I know of.
And then second question, I know like things like CAD now have some AI components. Do you happen to know if those AI components are also subject to the same licensing, or because they're in CAD, they're protected differently?
No, be the same laws.
They're allowed to use them.
Yeah, well, each program, each AI may have its own different laws. I was thinking of the big umbrella law. Can you copyright it or patent it? No, if it's generated through AI, unless it's derivative, to your point earlier. Okay? So.
I would say, I would ask the question too, Doug, something that's more fundamental. Do you think everything we're discussing today, everything that's around the AI culture that's being developed, do you think it's fair to say at the core of all of that is capitalism and the opportunity to generate money?
Yeah, that's why we work.
Well,
right? Yeah.
so when we ever think about something being free, it's never going to be free, right? It's
Right.
always going to have some connection to something that somebody wants to monetize. Someone wants to be able to gain and be able to,
Right. We live in a subscription world, and to get in Mid-Journey, it's $8 a month or $96 a year. They don't even give you a discount. Yeah. Yeah.
Just a note, I noticed in all of you said that sometimes gets hold on. I notice all the humans are beautiful. Is that you or them?
It's them. I don't even know how to get the humans off the damn bikes. I'm trying to do bikes here, and man,
So you're not taking credit for that?
No, definitely not.
Although I will tell you, Doug called me up and asked if I would model for this. So that is me.
Can I also say, note the bias in the pictures that you're seeing, which is a real constraint to AI.
Well, actually, the first page I did have a male, and I did expand upon that. But, they are producing females it's crazy. And like I said, from my point of view, it's a distraction that doesn't need to be there. I want to see the bike. She's covering up half the bike. And so, not helpful.
So I have so many questions, so many things I can say. One of which we always get into these conversations just in terms of philosophy, but when was the iPhone originally introduced? Right? Generation Z age bracket is now called Generation D for what? Depression. They're experiencing the greatest amount of depression in the history of that age bracket, right? So just where my mind goes, just so you guys understand how demented I am, I think it's worthy of making note that everything we're talking about here is going to have a 10, 20-year, lasting effect. So for all of us who are hungry to capitalize and monetize on this, I encourage you to also think future tense and what are the side effects? What are the things that are going to transpire? How will our children's children or whatever somehow be affected by the decisions we're making today, right? So I would love for you guys, if you would have been here for Rick Riffett's conversation yesterday, he definitely put us in our place in terms of understanding access, accessibility, working with indigenous cultures and understanding and embracing them through empathetic measures. Like all of these things should be the key factors that I think are input into the AI generating modules and things like that. So I will be honest, I haven't even tried once to use Midjourney because I'm more concerned at looking at the human condition and how that doesn't seem to change. But we always are kind of focusing on these other aspects to try to distract from what the truth is. So, something to just uplift your attitude and mental state. But it's really important for us to have that conversation. If anyone wants to riff off that, let's have a dialogue. We still have some time. There's no more talks. Doug, don't say videotape.
Let's go to the videotape. Now, I wanted to counter that a little bit. I'm old enough to remember a book that came out in the 90s called The End of Work. And he thought all of our jobs were going away, primarily due to automation. And he took the example of fast foods, And notice today, 30 years later, they're not automated. They just aren't. And so these things, I think, take a while. And I don't think it really, I don't think you should be so afraid.
I would counter that because as long as time, anything's possible, right?
Sure.
I mean, that's the real scary thing. It's a nascent technology now, but give it 10, 20 years and anything's possible.
Give it 3 months.
Right?
Yeah.
Not getting worse.
Hello, everybody. I'm from Italy, where they banned ChatGPT first, and where you mentioned that they banned, Midjourney. So I just want to say something. My parents were born after the World War II. There were 1 billion people at that time. We're 7 billion people now. And I think that AI, for me, looking at positive things, will help us, bring better healthcare, better world, if we look at that positive thing. That's it. 1 billion, 7 billion. How are we going to help all these people have a decent life? We live in the United States. Think about everything else. Thank you.
Prego. Arturo. That sounds Italian too.
If you like it to be. To riff on both those points, I think there's a much larger conversation to be had. I don't think that AI is going to destroy us, and I don't think it's going to elevate us. I think that it's going to do both. I think it's equally true that we're about to see revolutions in transport, in marketing, in medicine, in design, in every field. And we're also going to see a massive loss of jobs. And with due respect, sir, to the point that you made, I don't think we've ever seen a technology this disruptive, and we've never seen one that is happening this fast, that's going to get integrated in as many industries, and more than that, that is available universally. I mean, we can access these things for free right now. That's never happened. So I feel like these kinds of conversations are so important to be having. And then to the point made earlier, I can't remember who it was on that side of the room, but the point about it's not just a female model on the screen, but it's a white female model. And so the inputs here are so incredibly important. I know there are some AI generators that are taking these things into account, but for my money, I think Midjourney is absolutely the best. And all these things have to be part of the conversation.
And I would say what's interesting is the person who generated this artwork is a white middle-aged man. It's his computer, and somehow the analog knew to look up beautiful women. I don't know why. I'm just saying.
So if anyone's interested in research that's being done in this, Jacob Nelson, the UX dude himself, he started writing about AI, and he's looking at research, user research. And in one of his recent posts, he says to all the designers, he's speaking to us directly, and he says, get in there. To him, a parallel is when we started doing e-commerce. The designers sort of ignored that, and the developers were like, here's the metaphors for e-commerce. And then by the time we turned our attention to it, it was sat tables, right? And then we came in and went, well, what about cards? Oh my God. So he says, designers, get in there, start looking at AI. What is it good at? How can we humans use it? And he has a lot of great examples on his blog. So look up, that's Jacob Nelson. And I really appreciated how he was doing real user research to see what people intended to do. And he talks about this being a new frontier. So I think those of us who are excited about the world should get in there, right? We should start telling our companies how it's best to use AI and dissuading them for just putting it in to put it in.
So you're saying that we should be involved. We shouldn't be passive. So is that a charge for us? Is there some kind of a charter or something coming out of this that says we will stand up and we will actually learn and be educated and make sure that we drive where this goes? Or will we just let Jeff Bezos or Elon Musk or those guys tell us what to do? I'm just asking.
I feel like it's like humane design. If humane-design.com. I feel like it's that.
Right? Like those of us, especially who are really excited about the world and we really want to make a difference, which I think is most UXers and product people, let's go. Let's do it. Let's take responsibility. Let's raise our voices and be voices for an ethical use of this, and point out where it should and should not be used. Let's not clutter our products, but let's make them better for the humans using them. So, yes, let's go.
Thank you. I feel like I'm going to probably forget about that tomorrow because that's what I always do. Let's be honest, right? Well, then again, I do have a choice, don't I? So maybe I will really think about that. Actually, I am going to really think about that. So, all right, well, that concludes our presentation. I do want to remind each and every one of you, we have a very special guest that's flying in just for this presentation, Carla Diana. It's tomorrow at 4:30. And so it's kind of later in the afternoon, but it's great because there's a happy hour right afterwards, just down the street. But it's getting interaction off the screen and into the real world. She has a wonderful book out called My Robot Gets Me. And so she has a podcast as well with, I forget the gentleman's name from Berkeley or the D School, but she's got some case studies that she's going to go into and talk about just the ideologies behind it, the philosophy behind robotics, and sort of the human interaction and what we should and should not be doing. So highly recommend you come to that. But this is the last session for today for the designer track, and I'm so thankful that you all came. I hope you walk away pondering and thinking about some things, and you offer to buy me a cocktail. So thank you.